Today we are diving into a truly epic story from the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. It's a wild tale about a dynasty at the height of its power, a terrifying curse, and a god who, believe it or not, might have planned their downfall from the very beginning. So this is the big question, right? The paradox that sits at the center of this entire story. Lord Krishna, he's an incarnation of God, known as a protector, a savior. So why on earth would he arrange for the complete wipeout of his own family, the Yadu Dynasty? It's a deep, deep mystery, and we're going to unpack it together.
All right, so our story actually kicks off with a king asking this very same question. You see, in the sacred text, King Parikshit is just like us. He's trying to make sense of how such a terrible tragedy could even happen.
Now, let's get one thing straight. The Yadus? They weren't villains. Not even close. We're talking about a formidable force here. Incredibly wealthy, super successful, and totally devoted to Krishna. I mean, this was his family, his people, which, makes their eventual fate all the more shocking. And this quote from the king really gets to the heart of the conflict. He's asking the sage Shukadeva Goswami, how? How could these people who were so devoted get hit with a curse from holy men? It doesn't add up, does it? And that question is what really sets this whole incredible story in motion. So to even begin to understand the why behind all this, we've got to shift our whole perspective. We have to stop looking at this from a human point of view and try to see the situation through Krishna's eyes. And here it is, the first really stunning piece of the puzzle. From Krishna's cosmic viewpoint, the Yadus had become, too powerful. Their strength was so immense, and because he was there protecting them, no outside force could ever defeat them. They were basically invincible, and this created a massive imbalance, a weight that the earth itself just couldn't bear anymore.
This is a chilling look directly inside Krishna's mind. The text tells us this is what he decided. The only way to remove this burden was from the inside out. It's such a powerful image, right? Like a fire starting deep inside a thicket of bamboo, consuming everything. He was going to plant the seeds of their own destruction.
So Krishna has this divine plan in mind, but how does it actually happen down on the ground? Well, this is where human arrogance steps onto the stage and becomes the trigger for the whole catastrophe. Okay, so picture this. The scene is set at a holy place called Pindarika, and there's a gathering of some of the most revered and powerful sages of that time. I mean, we're talking about the spiritual heavyweights, Vishwamitra, Durvasa, Narada. You get the idea. These are not the guys you want to mess with. But you have this group of young Yadudapur princes. They're cocky, arrogant, feeling totally invincible. And they decide it would be hilarious to play a joke. So they grab Samba, who happens to be one of Krishna's own sons, dress him up in women's clothing, and stuff his robes so he looks pregnant. Their whole goal? Just to make fun of these holy men.
And then they go up to the sages, acting all humble, and ask this taunting question. You can just feel the disrespect, can't you? They think they're so clever. They have absolutely no idea that they are literally about to pull the pin on a grenade that's going to take out their entire civilization. The sages, with their immense spiritual insight, were not fooled for a second. And their reaction wasn't laughter. Oh no. It was immediate, it was terrifying, and it was absolute. And boom, there it is. In an instant, the sage's fury turns a stupid, childish prank into a death sentence for an entire people. They don't just predict doom, they pronounce it, they decree it. The very thing they were mocking, this fake pregnancy, is now going to give birth to the actual weapon of their destruction. This is that moment where the supernatural just becomes terrifyingly real. The boys are completely horrified. They pull away Samba's robes, and there it is. A real heavy iron club. The curse just happened. It manifested, right then and there. The joke was officially over. So the boys freak out. They run back to the king, they confess everything. And in a total panic, the Yadus try everything they can to undo this curse. But as we're about to see, every single thing they do to try and escape their fate just ends up sealing it even tighter. I mean, just look at this chain of events. It shows you how inescapable this whole thing was. The king orders the club to be ground into a fine powder and thrown into the ocean. But what happens? The powder washes back up on shore and grows into a field of razor-sharp reeds. And then there's this one last tiny piece of the club, a little shard, that gets swallowed by a fish. A hunter catches that fish, finds the shard, and forges it into a deadly arrowhead. Without even knowing it, they've just created the very weapons that will be used to destroy them. It's just, wow. Okay, so let's pull the camera back for the final big reveal. We've seen the prank, we've seen the curse, we've seen their desperate attempts to stop it, but who was really pulling the strings here? This is really the ultimate question, isn't it? Was it the boys' foolishness that caused all this? Or the sage's anger? Well, the answer, according to the text, is something much, much bigger. And right here, this is the absolute key to the whole story. You have to get this part. Krishna could have just snapped his fingers and undone the whole curse. He had the power. He's the Supreme Lord. But he chose not to. He allowed it to happen. Why? Because the curse was never the cause. It was just the tool, the means to an end that he had already decided on. To really grasp this, we have to talk about the concept of kala, or time. In this way of thinking, time isn't just, seconds and minutes. It's a divine force. It's an instrument of God that makes sure everything happens according to the grand cosmic plan. The text says Krishna accepted the curse in his form as Kala, as all-powerful time itself. So in the end, the boys' prank, the sage's curse, that was all just the pretext. It was the cover story. They were just instruments being used by this force of time to carry out a divine plan that was already in motion. And what was that plan? To relieve the earth of the unbearable weight of the Yadu Dynasty. And that leaves us with this final, timeless question. Think about it. The Yada's greatest strength, their invincibility, that became the very reason they had to be destroyed. So it really makes you wonder, is this some kind of universal law? Does every great power, whether it's a dynasty, an empire, even an institution, does it always eventually carry the seeds of its own destruction? Now that's something to think about.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're really immersing ourselves in quite a profound and maybe unsettling story.
Definitely. We're looking at the end of the Yadu Dynasty, their complete annihilation.
And it wasn't an accident, was it? It was deliberate. Our source today, it's Shukadeva Goswami's narration.
That's right. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 11, Chapter 1. It lays out the whole sequence, the rationale, everything.
Okay, so our mission for you listening is to really get a handle on this. Why did it happen? What was the trigger? And, what were the consequences?
Exactly. We want to synthesize that for you quickly but thoroughly. It's more than just a tragedy. It's like a divine blueprint. It shows how destiny, maybe pride, and certainly divine will came together.
To remove a final burden? Right, That's a key concept.
Precisely. A final internal burden.
And Shloka 1 sets that stage perfectly. You have Kanna, Balarama, the whole Yadu clan. They've just finished this massive task.
The primary mission, you could say.
Yeah.
Relieving the earth of its burden. Bhuvava Tarayatavaram. Getting rid of those problematic kings and armies.
The Daitya-vada.
Yes, the destruction of the demonic forces, essentially.
But here's the kicker, right? The moment that's done.
The job's not finished. That's the immediate realization.
It's almost like, okay, task 1 complete, but wait, there's more.
And the more is huge. The text says completing that first task immediately brings on the age of Kali. Javam Janayan Kalim.
Wow. So the external cleanup just revealed, or maybe accelerated, the internal decay.
It signals a shift.
Yeah.
The time for fighting outside forces is over. Now it's about dealing with what's inside. The internal reckoning begins.
That pivot is crucial. So relieving the Earth's burden, let's call it phase 1.
Good way to put it.
It didn't lead to peace and quiet. It led straight to the age of darkness, Kali Yuga.
Which strongly suggests Khan knew. He knew the Yadus themselves, even though they were his family, his devotees. Their very existence was now the main issue. The final liability.
That's a heavy realization.
It is. But you have to frame it within Kinti's whole mission. Restoring cosmic balance.
Mm-hmm.
He dealt with let's say, the external tuner, the power-hungry kings.
Right.
But once that was gone, the deeper issue surfaced, the internal one, and it was the Yadus.
Okay, let's really unpack that. So phase 1, removing that first burden. How exactly did he do that? Because understanding that helps us see why the Yadu problem was so different, so much harder.
Well, Kimsi's approach in phase 1 was brilliant, really.
Yeah.
He didn't just wade in with divine power, blasting everyone. Loka 2 is clear. He used existing conflicts, human flaws.
Right.
He let the tensions between the kings, especially those against the pacifists, just escalate.
He fanned the flames, maybe?
Or perhaps just created the perfect stage for the fire. He made their own strife, the nimittam, the pretext for their destruction. He was the orchestrator, not the main combatant.
And the specific triggers, the pretexts mentioned, they're so human, aren't they?
Absolutely. It wasn't some grand cosmic disagreement initially. It was gambling, dirdyuta.
Yeah.
It was public humiliation, insults.
And that infamous incident with Draupadi's hair. Kakagrahan. Unforgivable.
Exactly. These deeply personal, pride-driven actions, they provided the spark. Cain just engineered the situation, bringing all these proud, burdening kings together, where they essentially wiped each other out, and boom, the Kati Piram, the Earth's physical burden of these massive armies, was lifted.
So phase 1 complete. External enemies gone, armies destroyed. But then we get to Shloka 3, and Kanan, the Promeya, the immeasurable Lord, he looks around and thinks, nope, still not done. Why?
This is the core of it. The burden wasn't gone, because the Yadu Dynasty itself remained.
His own family.
His own family. Their sheer power, their prosperity, their perhaps collective pride. It constituted what the text calls an unbearable remnant of Yahimas.
Unbearable. But they were devotees. They were protected by him. How could they be the burden? It feels like a paradox.
It's a really critical theological point. The text mentions they were protected by their own strength, Swabhahubi. They were mighty warriors in their own right.
Okay.
But crucially, they had taken shelter of Canto, Matsai's Rasia.
Yeah.
That combination, immense worldly power plus infallible divine protection, it created something unsustainable, too powerful for the world that was coming.
Ah, I see. So it wasn't about them being evil. It was about them being too much, too strong, too protected for the balance needed, especially with Kali Yuga dawning.
Precisely. Their prosperity, Vipava Unanasya, was constantly increasing. They were just too successful, too untouchable. And Sloka 4 spells out the implication. No external force, Eva Anyeta, could possibly defeat them. Ever.
Because kindness protection was absolute.
Absolute. So they represent an imbalance, an entity that simply cannot be checked by normal means in the cleansed world.
Which leads to only one possible conclusion.
The only logical conclusion, from Kain's perspective, the annihilation had to come from within. He recognized that the only way was to instigate an internal quarrel, Antakalim. It was necessary, the text says, so he could return to his own abode, Shintimupemitama.
So he had to actively plan the destruction of his own most beloved people. That's intense.
It's a profound decision. And the analogy used in Shloka 4 is incredibly powerful. They must destroy themselves like
fire in a bamboo cluster, Vinstamvasya Vanimiva.
Exactly. Think about it. A dense bamboo growth, all tightly packed. When it gets dry, maybe there's friction, internal heat.
It just goes up in flames from the inside out.
Completely. It consumes itself. The fuel is internal. The spark is internal. It's self-generated destruction. The Yadus' burden wasn't malice. It was their impenetrable self-sustaining power and immunity.
Okay, so the decision is made. It's absolute, unchangeable. But how do you actually start that fire? You need a trigger, right? Something that feels natural, even if the decision behind it is divine.
Exactly. And that's where Shloka 5 comes in. The Sakyasakalpa, the one whose will is infallible. He decides to use the pretext of curse. Shapav Yigena.
Ah, so the curse isn't the ultimate cause, it's the mechanism. The excuse, almost.
Precisely. It's the perfect vehicle, delivered at exactly the right time to set his plan in motion. The real cause was the need for internal destruction. The curse was the chosen method.
And the timing wasn't random either, was it?
Not at all. Shloka 10 paints the picture. Kenja has tied up all loose ends, fulfilled his desires, Aptakama, completed his duties, Sitakakachen. He's ready to go back.
And during this time, he's living in Dwaraka, but not just as Kala the king or friend.
He's there as Kalapana, as time itself, embodied time.
Okay, that's significant. He's the force of destiny, present and active.
Absolutely, performing these final auspicious deeds, setting the stage for the end of the Yadu age. And right then,
the sages arrive.
A whole assembly of them, at the holy place of Piraka. And Sloka 12 doesn't just say some sages, it lists them. It's an incredible lineup.
Like a spiritual all-star team. You've got Vishwanath, Asita, Kanfa, Vagu, Aijera, Kashyapa,
Vamadeva, Atri, Vasiha, the great Narada, and crucially, Durvasa.
Durvasa, famous for his short temper.
Exactly. This isn't a random group. Their combined spiritual weight is immense. Their presence signals something major is about to happen.
And into this incredibly potent, sacred gathering walk, the kids.
The Yadu boys. Yadu Nandana, and they're acting out, showing the kind of arrogance that maybe comes from feeling untouchable for too long.
That subtle corruption of power again. Sloka 13 says they approached acting humble, vinitavat.
But inside, avinite, utterly impolite. It's a performance. Fake deference covering up real disrespect. This is the friction Katia needed, the spark for the bamboo fire.
And the prank itself. Wow, it's audacious.
It really is. They take Samba, Jambavati's son, and dress him up as a woman. Shturavan, not just any woman, but a heavily pregnant one.
So it's mockery on multiple levels. Mocking the sages, mocking pregnancy, mocking gender.
And targeted mockery, too. Lokas 14 and 15 detail how they present her. This dark-eyed pregnant woman, Asitikan Antarvatni.
Claiming she's too shy villagati to ask herself.
And then they challenge the sages directly, addressing them as Amogadarshano, infallible seers. It's almost sarcastic, given the setup.
Doubly insulting. They say she wants a son, Putra Kama. Tell us, O infallible ones, what will she give birth to?
They're basically daring the sages, testing their power, maybe hoping for a blessing for a son, which they could then expose as a joke. Utter hubris.
But you don't play games with sages like Durvasa and Vishamitra.
Absolutely not. Yoga 16 says the sages immediately understood they were being ridiculed.
Pralabdha and reaction.
Instantaneous anger,
Yeah.
kupita, all that collective spiritual power now focused by righteous fury.
And they don't just issue a general warning. They deliver something specific. Very specific.
Chillingly specific. This fool, they say, referring to Samba, Manda, will give birth to an iron club, a musalam.
An iron club.
Yes, and not just any club, one that will destroy your entire dynasty. Kula Neshanam.
The exact instrument of destruction foretold. The ignition source for the internal fire.
It shows how perfectly things were orchestrated. The sage's anger becomes the conduit for his pre-decided plan. The curse provides the yip of yayana, the justification, the pretext for ending the untouchable Yadus.
So the shift from this arrogant prank to stark reality must have been terrifying for those boys.
Instantaneous. One moment they're laughing, the next horror. The text says, hearing the curse, they became atisantasta, extremely fearful.
And they pull off the disguise.
Expecting to reveal a joke, but no. There it is. A musalam, a club made of solid iron. Kalvayasmayam. Physically real, tangible.
Just holding their own dynasty's doom. The psychological shock.
Must have been immense. Shloka 18 describes their reaction. Bewilderment. Lament. What have we done? And significantly, fear public opinion. What will people say about us? The shame, the scandal.
Their arrogance completely shattered.
Completely. And their fear drives them straight to the top. Faces pale, Paramlanamukashir, they run to King Ugrasena. Huka, he's also called.
And they reported all right there in the royal assembly, Sadasi.
Yes, in front of everyone, the whole court.
Imagine the scene in Dwarka, this golden city, the seat of this unbeatable dynasty. How did people react?
Predictably. Astonishment, vismitha, and deep fear, baithantrasta. They heard about the amogam viprashapam.
An infallible curse from those sages. They knew this was real. This wasn't something you could just wish away.
No. And King Ugrasena, the Yadurja, he's now in an impossible position. He knows the curse is infallible, but he's the king. His duty is to protect his people.
So what does he do? Does he just accept it?
He tries to fight it. Pragmatically, physically. Shloka 21 says his solution was, well, direct. He ordered the iron club to be ground down.
Ground into dust.
Into the finest powder possible. Kujadva. Pulverized. Neutralize the physical object. Neutralize the threat. That was the thinking.
And then dispose of it, presumably.
Exactly. He took all that powder and any little bits left over and had it all thrown into the ocean. Samudra Salil. Scatter it into the vastness. Let the sea swallow it.
Trying to erase the physical manifestation of the curse? It's a logical step, but
futile. Because this wasn't just about a physical object. It was about fulfilling a divine decree. Keetma willed this end. Ugrasena's actions couldn't stop it.
in fact, they almost seem to help set the stage for how it happens.
That's the incredible part detailed in Shlokas 22 and 23. Destiny, guided by Keet as time, Kalarupya, just, retrieves the means of destruction, meticulously.
Okay, so there were two parts to this retrieval, right? First, the powder Ugrasena thought he'd dispersed.
Right. He thought the ocean would just absorb it, dilute it to nothing. But the waves, Tarlai, simply washed most of it back ashore. Vilayam.
And it didn't just sit there.
No, it wasn't inert. It sprouted. It grew into this dense patch of incredibly tough reeds called Iraka grass.
Iraka grass.
Yep.
So the pulverized curse became a field of potential weapons.
Exactly. It looks natural, just reads on the seashore. But it contains the essence of the Musalam, the dynasty destroying club, waiting, ready for the final fight.
That's chilling. In the second part, there was a piece they couldn't grind down completely.
Yes, a remaining shard, maybe the hardest piece. Ugrasena threw that into the ocean too, hoped it would sink and be lost forever.
It wasn't.
Nope. A particular fish swallowed it. Later, some fishermen caught that fish in their nets, Jolena.
And when they cleaned it?
They found the piece of iron inside its belly, Udaragataya Loha, retrieved from the depths.
Incredible. It's like destiny itself went fishing.
And then this retrieved fragment falls into the hands of a hunter, a Lubdika. He finds this unusual metal piece.
And what does he do with it? He recognizes it's special.
Apparently, he sees its potential, and he fashions it into the head of an arrow, a shede.
The arrowhead. So the mass destruction weapon gets broken down. Part becomes a field of improvised weapons for a brawl.
And the deadliest, most irreducible part becomes a single precise projectile, ready for the final fatal shot.
It really drives home the point. Once Kinalav willed it, the means couldn't be destroyed, only transformed. Ugrasena's attempt to save them just ensured the iron would be there, waiting in exactly the forms needed.
Precisely. Which brings us right to the philosophical heart of it in Shloka 24, Kadina's role in all this.
Right, because he could have stopped it, couldn't he? He's the Supreme Lord, Ishvara, knows everything, Jadasardavartha. Reversing a curse would be trivial for him.
Absolutely. But the text is explicit. He chose not to. Na aichat viprashapa. He did not wish to nullify the curse.
He deliberately approved it, accepted it. Why is that acceptance so key?
Because he saw the curse not as some random event, but as the agent of his own will, as time personified, Kalarupya. It was the Yepavyena, the perfect pretext he spoke of back in Shloka 5.
The moral failing of the boys, their arrogance, provided the cover story.
For an action he had already thought it was necessary for cosmic balance and for his own return. It allowed the destruction to happen in a way that seemed well-earned from a human perspective, even though the ultimate cause was divine necessity.
It's a stark contrast, isn't it? This sort of cold, calculated divine necessity against the backdrop of Kanta's actual presence, which was described as incredibly beautiful and captivating.
That's a vital part of the narrative. Shloka 6 makes a point of describing his transcendental form, Svamurtya, how it surpassed all worldly beauty, Lokalvanya Nirmuktya.
People were just drawn to him.
Completely. His form captivated the eyes, his words, his actions, his very footsteps. They charmed the minds, siddham, and hearts of everyone. He was the most attractive person imaginable.
Yet, underneath that charm, as Kalarupya, he was orchestrating this devastating end for his own family.
It shows that divine action isn't driven by sentimentality as we understand it. It's driven by a higher, infallible logic. And part of that logic involved securing his legacy before the dissolution. He had to ensure the memory of his perfect activities was established.
Which brings us to Shloka 7 and the ultimate purpose behind everything, securing his fame.
Yes, his kirtim sushilokam. Fame worthy of glorification in sublime poetry. An eternal legacy.
Why was establishing this narrative, this fame, so critical before he left?
The text gives the reason explicitly. He did it so that future generations, people like us, could use this fame, this story.
His life story, his teachings.
Exactly, to cross over the darkness of ignorance. Tamayana Tariyanti. The story itself becomes the rescue boat.
Especially needed with the Kali Yuga coming.
Precisely. So the whole Yadu saga, from the glory days to the prank to the horrifying end, serves two functions. One, it removes that final, internal, unbearable cosmic burden. And two, it simultaneously cements his immortal fame, his kirki, which acts as a tool for salvation for everyone who comes after.
A teaching tool embedded in a cosmic cleanup operation.
You could say that. And having achieved both removing the burden and securing the legacy, the Supreme Lord, Isva, could then return to his own eternal abode, Svapadam.
It's worth noting, too, while the method of destruction was harsh, the Yadus themselves, being his associates, their ultimate destination wasn't compromised, was it?
That's a crucial point often missed. There's a profound mercy even within the destruction. Their association with kin was perfect. The way they ended removed the earthly imbalance, fulfilled the plan, but their spiritual destination, because of their devotion, remained secure. It was cosmic house cleaning, yes, but not damnation for those involved.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. For you listening, let's recap the flow we've traced here.
We started with the external burden, the troublesome kings and armies. Kenya used their own conflicts, politics, and pride to engineer their removal at Kurukshetra. Phase 1, done.
But that revealed the internal burden, the Yadu Dynasty itself. Too powerful, too protected, too prosperous to fit into the coming age. Untouchable from outside.
Right. So Kaya, acting as time, had to engineer an internal solution. The infallible decision was made.
And the mechanism. A moment of extreme arrogance from the Yadu boys, disrespecting powerful sages.
Which resulted in an infallible curse, the Yupavayena, the perfect pretext kept needed. It wasn't the real cause, but the trigger.
A trigger that manifested physically as an iron club.
Which, despite attempts to destroy it, transformed into the very weapons needed for the internal destruction. The Iraka grass for the brawl, and the single arrowhead for the final act. Destiny retrieving its tools.
All because Cat accepted the curse, seeing it as the instrument of his own predetermined will as time.
And the ultimate goal wasn't just destruction, but also securing his glorious legacy, his Kirti, as a means for everyone else to navigate the coming darkness.
It really underscores the idea that even the highest protection, the greatest prosperity, it doesn't grant immunity from destiny, especially when internal flaws like pride create an opening.
Absolutely. That arrogance, the impudent prank, was the chink in the armor that Kala, time, exploited perfectly.
And the detail about the final weapon, not some grand divine force, but that tiny piece of iron, rescued from a fish, made into an arrowhead by a hunter.
It's incredibly potent, isn't it? How the most significant outcomes can hinge on seemingly small, overlooked details that destiny puts in the right place at the right time.
Which leads us to that final provocative thought for you, our listener. The Yadus' end came from an internal flaw, that unchecked pride manifesting through what seemed like a minor physical object, that iron shard.
So think about our own lives today. We might feel secure, protected by our own forms of prosperity or strength, but what seemingly insignificant element, maybe a small resentment we hold on to, an unexamined privilege, a casual moment of disrespect, we brush off what tiny iron shard might already be in motion, being shaped by time, potentially becoming the seed of a major future challenge.
The Yadu Club was ground to dust, but destiny, it seems, always finds the sharpest piece to fulfill its purpose. Something to definitely ponder.
Indeed.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the truly complex and profound reasons behind the final days of the Yadu Dynasty.